Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles wouldn't be an arena fighter without stages. The last couple of weeks gave us some trailers where a ton of stages have been hinted at, and yet there are still a few that we haven't heard about that will probably end up being in the game. Today we're gonna look at the stages that have been confirmed, the stages that have been hinted at, and the stages that we think will make it into the final game, giving you the complete list of where you'll be able to fight in Demon Slayer. Brought to you by Gamersubs. It was just a matter of time really before something waifu related decided to sponsor this channel. I did it to myself. Introducing the Gamersubs waifu collection. Choose your waifu, get a t-shirt, get a matching shaker, choose your waifu. God damn it. Jokes aside, Gamersubs makes a fantastic supplement. A couple of spoons of this powder, fill it up with water, and you've got yourself a drink with no calories, no carbs, and no sugar. Whenever I have a long work day or a long gaming night, I used to just go for some energy drinks like many of you probably do. Now I get my energy from this because instead of it being terrible for my health, it uses organic caffeine and just gives me some vitamins. It's so much healthier. Not to mention this is vegan, keto, and diabetic friendly. I have no idea how they accomplish all of that and still make it taste this good. I honestly can't wait to try more flavors because I honestly love the two that they have sent me so far. But taste is a hard thing to sell unless you guys try it out for yourself, so here's what I recommend. Get a t-shirt or a shaker and then add some samples to your cart because the samples are always free and then you can just taste it for yourself. On top of that, add code Globku at checkout and you'll get a 10% discount on anything you want to buy. Thank you Gamersubs for sponsoring this video and also for this delicious drink. It's really good. But let's talk stages and let's start with the achievements list. According to this list, story mode will begin with Tanjiro's training. Most likely the tutorial fight will be Tanjiro versus Sabito, which ends with Tanjiro slashing the big rock. This means that everything that comes before that will probably not make it into the game. The Tanjiro versus Gyu fight in the snowy forest, the fight against the temple demon, none of that will be in. So those are two stages that will probably not make it. Meaning the first stage we're gonna add is this boulder stage, which is one of the few that has been confirmed for versus mode, as we've seen several fights take place here. From there, the story goes into the final selection exam, which we've only seen in the story trailer so far. Having stages in story mode doesn't necessarily confirm them for versus, but it's a very good hint that they will be playable. And the final selection exam will almost definitely be a stage. Tanjiro fights against the minor demons in the trailer, as well as the hand demon boss fight. Now, the hand demon stage looks different. It's a lot bigger. I would say it's a modified version of the regular stage that's been changed to accommodate the boss fight. It's a bigger enemy than usual, the boss has really big attacks, you need the space to dodge and run around. I don't think this bigger version will be playable in versus though. We've seen something similar happen in the Storm games as well. Storm 4, you had that fantastic boss fight against the Ten Tails. That happened in a modified version of the playable stage that was tailored specifically for that boss fight in story mode. Even the first Storm game had modified stages for boss fights, and I think that's what's happening here. Still, the stage where Tanjiro fights against the generic demons in the final selection exam I think will be a playable stage, and the lighting on this one is also different. It almost looks like it's daytime. I do think a lot of these stages that we're talking about today will have a day and night versions. Maybe if you pick Nezuko or another playable demon that will totally be confirmed later on, then the stage turns into nighttime automatically, similar to how stages become their nighttime versions in Jump Force whenever someone picks Dio. Two stages down, let's continue the Demon Slayer story. We move on to Tanjiro's first mission. This is where he meets the Swamp Demon, and this village, this fight seems to take place in quite the narrow corridor, but as you can see from multiple shots in the story mode trailer, they've made it a lot wider so you can make an arena out of it. Once again, it's only in story mode so far, but I think that's a huge hint that this will be a playable stage. From the village, Tanjiro goes to the city where he meets Muzan for the very first time, and this arc is actually going to give us two stages that have been shown in story mode already. It's mostly thanks to the adventure mode trailer that focuses specifically on this arc. The city itself will be a playable stage. I don't think the ramen guy makes an appearance. I mean, he's probably in a cutscene, but not in the stage. You could just have ramen guy in the background. That would have been epic. And later you fight against Susamoto and Yahaba at Lady Tamayo's house. Both the city and Lady Tamayo's stages seem to have an appropriate size for an arena, which is also a very big hint that both of them will be playable. Moving on to the Drum Demon arc, this boss fight also shows up briefly in the story mode trailer and honestly looks like a fantastic stage to play in. I wouldn't be surprised if the Drum Demon is able to rotate that entire stage and flip it around during the story mode boss fight, but even without that rotation, this looks like a fantastic stage to fight in. Besides, Zenitsu and Inosuke are gonna have their own fights here without any rotating gimmicks, so the Drum Demon House will most likely be playable as well. After that, our heroes needed some rest and some healing, so they traveled to the old lady's house. No fights happen here, so I don't think this will end up being a playable stage. So without further ado, let's move on to the biggest arc of Season 1, the Spider Forest arc. I believe there will be a generic Spider Forest stage, and I say generic because the Spider Forest actually has 2 or 3 locations that are very identifiable. There's the river where they fought the Spider Father, there's the cabin where Zenitsu fought against the Spider Son, but when they're fighting against Rui or the Spider Puppets controlled by Mother, that all just happens in somewhat of a generic forest stage. At the end of the story trailer, we do get a little snippet of the boss fight against the strongest puppet that Mother has. That is the Spider Forest stage that I think will be playable, but we're not done. The fight against Spider Father by the river is just too memorable to ignore. And this arc is big enough to justify 2 stages. So I'm gonna take a big risk here and say that the Spider Forest will have a second stage, which will be the river stage, where Tanjiro and Inosuke fought against the Spider Father. As for the cabin, where Zenitsu fights against the Spider Son, I think something similar to the Hand Demon will happen here. We will have a modified version of the Spider Forest stage that will be story mode exclusive. And honestly, out of all the story mode boss fights, the Spider Son is probably the one I'm most curious to see how they're gonna handle. It's a weird body type, it's a weird body shape, like there's potential for a really cool boss fight there. And from this point until the end of Season 1, I think the remainder of the stages have already been revealed. The first one is the Hashira house. We first saw it when Rengoku got revealed, and since then it's shown up again on a couple of character trailers. The version we saw in game was the nighttime version, but once again, I wouldn't be surprised if daytime versions are playable as well. And then we have the Butterfly Mansion arc, which before the stage was revealed, I thought we might have gotten the dojo instead. But when the high school characters got announced, we saw the stage and they were fighting outdoors, so I guess that's the Butterfly Mansion stage. They could theoretically still add the dojo stage, but looking at the achievements, it seems like we're gonna be playing some mini games in there. So I'm guessing the dojo will be like the mini game space and not really a playable arena. And that's it for Season 1. I also consider the Infinity Castle, but I don't think what happens in Season 1 is enough to make it a playable stage. Don't worry, it will come at some point. Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles 3 or something. From here we move on to the Mugen Train movie, and spoiler alert, I'm gonna be talking about stages in the Mugen Train, which means I gotta talk about the fights that happen in the Mugen Train. So if you haven't watched the movie yet and you don't want spoilers, thank you for watching the video so far. I'll catch you guys on the next one. But if you're sticking around, let's get into it. The Mugen Train portion of the story takes place in 2 locations pretty much, the train itself and the place where the train crashes. The train wreck area will definitely be a stage. Rengoku versus Akaza will definitely be in the story mode, and this is the stage where it will happen. Now that is the final stage on our list, but I think there's one more to add before that. Adding the train itself is a bit tricky though. It's such a narrow place, you can't quite make an arena out of it. I mean, do you fight inside the train cars? Do you fight on top of the train? Even then, like it's just not wide enough. It would look like such a fake train if they would to wind that up and just make it, you know, more like an arena. Well, luckily they solved this problem themselves. When Enma fused with the train, he just made an arena. And I think that could end up being a playable stage. Now there's still some challenges here because you're making a stage with a moving background. And I don't know if that's easy, but it doesn't sound easy. That said, I think it'd be really cool to see. Please, CyberConnect, I believe in you. I know you can do this. But if these 2 are the only playable stages in the Mugen Train arc, that does raise a question, because this stage only exists because Enma fused with the train. So what happens to the Tanjiro versus Enma fight on top of the train? It wouldn't make sense to have that fight in that arena because Enma still hasn't revealed that he's been fused with the train, you know? And you're right, you're totally right, which is why I think the Tanjiro versus Enma boss fight will probably take place in a stage that is story mode only. Probably on top of the train. They'll make something crazy, and a boss fight that will accommodate for that sort of space. But I don't think the top of the train will be an arena. It will probably look too fake. Unless they make it a 2D fighter at that point. So, Demon Slayer 2D? Heck, in story mode, you'll probably be fighting in that arena against a bunch of different tentacles. Because this game actually has a targeting system. This is something we haven't talked about yet. There is this small scene in the story trailer where Tanjiro and Nezuko are fighting against the swamp demons. And this seems like a 2v2 fight with 4 characters on stage. These do not seem like assists, they are fighting simultaneously, and you can see a little indicator on top of one of the swamp demons, and that's the target that you're attacking. Which means having this boss fight in in the fleshy arena fighting against a bunch of different tentacles is very possible because you have a targeting system already. But yes, we're definitely making the fleshy arena a part of the playable stages for now, and I also thought about the dream stages as well. That Tanjiro subconscious would be so cool, but there are no big fights there, so it probably won't happen. And that brings us to a total of 12 stages, and if you think that's not a lot, keep in mind that the first Storm game only had 9 stages. It's important to remember that this is the first game of the series. They don't have a prequel to build up from. And honestly, 12 stages might be too ambitious. I keep looking at that train stage and the river in the spider forest, and I don't know if they'll make it. They're kind of wild guesses, to be honest. But I'm locking this prediction in. 12 stages, and you should lock in a waifu. The t-shirts are really awesome. I think they're really well made, and you should get some samples also while you're at it. Code Globku for 10% off, link down below. And are there any stages that we missed in this prediction? If you think there are, let me know in the comments down below. And as always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Globku, and I'll see you next time. Bye!